Good evening. In previous session, we have seen the concept of synchronization, and in today's session, we are going to see about the concept of inter-thread communication. Okay. So before going to see this inter-thread communication, let us see in brief what is meant by a synchronization and what are the different methods or mechanisms we have used to implement the concept of synchronization in Python. So synchronization. So what is meant by synchronization? Synchronization means at any particular time only one thread has to execute. Okay, so here we are going to implement this synchronization by using three mechanisms. One is lock, second one is rlock, and third one is semaphore. In this semaphore only we are going to have bounded semaphore also. Okay, these are the three things we have seen, three mechanisms we have seen for implementing the concept of synchronization. So when there is a need of synchronization only, it is recommended to use the concept of synchronization. If unnecessarily, if we use the concept of synchronization when it is not required also, then we will get a performance issues in our application. The reason is, what is the disadvantage of the synchronization? Waiting time of threads is going to be increased. Waiting time is going to be increased. And what is the advantage? We are going to resolve the problem of data inconsistency. Now, if you are going to use the concept of synchronization, the data will be what? Consistent. Okay, this is the advantage. This is what? Disadvantage. So whenever we are going to use the concept of synchronization, the thread has to wait more time. That means what? To complete any particular task, it will take more time. So automatically performance is going to be what? Performance is going to be degraded. Okay, right. So if there is no specific requirement of synchronization, better don't go for the concept of synchronization. Now, in our multi-threading concept, one of the important concepts we are going to see today, that is inter-thread communication. Inter-thread communication. What is meant by inter-thread communication? Means communication between communication between the threads is called as inter-thread communication. So before going to see the concept of inter-thread communication, I will give you few real-time examples where the need of communication is required between the human beings, for example. So see here, this is a classroom, for example. This is a classroom. So in classroom, students and faculty will be there. Okay, students are there and faculty will be there. For example, here faculty is there. So, and here one board is there, blackboard or some board, whiteboard we can consider. Board is there. Now observe carefully here. Here, these are all are what? Students. Students. And this is what? Faculty. Now observe carefully here. Whenever faculty is going to write something here, for example, he is going to write hi. Then after writing the data by the faculty on the board, then after completing the writing of the faculty, then student has to write the data. Okay, students has to write that data. After completing that, what faculty will do? Faculty will erase it. Faculty will do what? Faculty is going to erase that. After that, faculty is going to write once again some data. Okay, some important points he is going to write here. So after completing a faculty writing, then what students has to do? Students has to write these things. So here, how the communication is going to be done between these two, that is nothing but faculty and students are nothing but. So faculty will say what? So these are the important points, and he or she will write on the board. After completing his data, what he will say? Okay, note down. After giving the notification by this thread or by this faculty, students will note down those points. Okay, so until that time, and if faculty is going to write here, students has to do what? Students has to wait. Okay, when students will write the notes, when faculty says okay, note down the points, then this particular students are going to note down the points. So this is one example. Here the communication between two are going to be done. What is that? Faculty and student. So faculty is going to use this board, and students also using this board. How students are going to use? Students are going to take the data from this board, and what faculty is going to do? Faculty is going to insert some data, and the students are going to retrieve some data from this board. That means to communicate between faculty and students, in between something should be there, in between some interface should be there. So here we are going to use the concept of board. Board is nothing but a medium or a interface between the faculty and students. So by using this medium only, faculty and students are going to communicate. That means here one point we have to understand: for communication between two human beings, one medium is going to be needed. Okay, right, this is about a small example. Okay, otherwise directly if you want to communicate, we can talk. It is not a concept. Here by using one medium we are going to communicate here. That means he is going to write here, and he is going to tell to the students that, okay, no, right, note down the points. Then only the students are going to be right. After completing, again what they have to do? They have to wait, and again faculty has to write something here. After completing the data that is written onto the board, then faculty will say what? Again note down. That means here the communication is going to be done between the faculty and students. So some more examples I will discuss so that you will get a clarity on this one. Right. Now observe here, one hospital is there. Hospital is there. So here patients are waiting. Patients are waiting. Patient 1, patient 2, patient 3. For example, this is doctor room. This is what? Doctor room. So here one person is there. Compounder is there. What is the task of compounder? He is going to tell to these threads. He is going to tell to this thread when to enter this one. Okay, if already, let us consider here. So doctor is free now. If doctor is free, what this compounder will say? Compounder will say, okay, you can go inside. Okay, so faculty, sorry, one of the patient will go here, and he is going to talk with the doctor, and he will come back. That means what? Here the communication between compounder and patient is going to be done here. Okay, right. Next, let us come to our concept now. T1 is there, T2 is there. Two threads are there. I'm going to take the threads now. Here two threads are there. So first thread, second thread. Now, if these two threads want to communicate each other, okay, if these two threads want to communicate each other, then let us consider T1 want to produce something. That means what? T1 want to talk something. For example, T1 want to talk. So as T1 is talking, T2 should not talk. Okay. So T2 has to be in which state? T2 has to be in waiting state. Okay. Should not write T2 dot wait. So just T2 has to be in which state? Waiting state. So after completing, after T1 talking, what T1 has to tell? Okay, now you tell. That means what? After completing T1, T1 is going to give notification to T2, thread 2. Then what thread 2 will do? Okay, he will do some activity. He will do some activity. Otherwise, he will talk again. Okay, observe carefully. Once again, I'm repeating with another example. Now see, just I will take a general example where we are going to see for any interthread communication, that is nothing but producer and consumer problem. So here thread 1 is producer, for example. Okay, here thread 2 is consumer. The task of producer is what? To produce the data. The task of consumer is what? To consume the data. If producer is not going to produce, can consumer can consume? No, it is not possible. Next, if consumer is go on consuming without producing by the producer, there is a problem. And if producer go on produces without consuming by the consumer, there is a problem. Just I will discuss that problem now. Just I will take a small scenario. See, observe now. Here T1 and T2 are there. Let us consider T1 is producer, T2 is consumer. This is a buffer, for example, or some queue in between the T1 and T2. So T1 is using this one and T2 is using this one. Now, first T1 has to insert here so that after producing the data by the producer, what the producer has to tell, okay, now you can consume the data. That means what? Producer has to produce the data, and after producing the data, what producer has to tell? Producer has to tell that you can consume the data, or some notification has to be given. So those who are going to update, those who are going to produce, or those who are going to update, then those are going to give what? Notifications. Now, who is going to apply wait? So T2 is waiting for what? T2 is waiting for data. On what? Let us consider this is a queue, for example. So q dot wait. Q dot wait is nothing but this T2, or we can say consumer. Consumer is waiting for what? On queue. That means this consumer want to take some data from this queue. Until the production, until the data is produced by the producer here, this queue will be what? In waiting state. However, consumer knows that data is produced by producer. So producer will do what? After producing the data, he will give the notification to the consumer, so that as consumer is in waiting state on queue, it will come back to running state and it will consume the data from the this queue. Okay, that means those who need, T2 what? Some data which is given by other, those who need some updations on this one, so they have to wait, those who are going to update, after updating they have to apply what? Notification. So once again I will tell the same concept here. So here faculty is there and here students are there. So students are waiting for what? Students are waiting for some lecture which is given by the faculty. So all these threads are what? All these threads are waiting, all these students are waiting to what? To get some points. That means faculty, who is going to produce that one? Faculty. So faculty is going to produce some data or some updations faculty is going to give. After completing the production or updations, this faculty has to tell what? Faculty has to notify to the students. Okay, that means those are going to update, they have to apply which one? Which method? Notification or notify method, for example. Next, what? Those who need updations, student needs updations on this board. So students are going to do what? They has to apply wait method. Those who need updations, they have to apply wait method. Those who are going to update, they have to apply notify method. So these are the some examples that we can understand to make you understand about the, what we can say, interthread communication. So here two threads, T1 and T2, I have taken producer and consumer as two threads. Here what? Faculty is one thread and students are other threads. In the same way here doctor is one thread or compounder is one thread, and here patient is one thread. Okay, what first what compounder will say? You have to wait, or this particular patient will wait outside because here doctor is seeing other person. So after completing the appointment of one other person, his compounder will say what? Okay, you can go now. That means what? Notification. These are waiting for what? This particular patient is waiting to meet the doctor. When this particular patient has to will meet the doctor, if this doctor room is empty, that means what? Already something is there. I'm changing that. That means some updation is going to be done. It is initially filled. Some person is there. So updation is nothing but what? Let us consider here some data is there. Hi is there. If I tell you updation is nothing but I can write some additional data here. It is also updation. Otherwise, initially hi is there. If I want to update this box, for example, this is also updation only. That means something is happening here. Some updation is going to be done. Some data is removed here. That is also updation. Adding is an adding is an updation, or removing is an updation. There is no problem. Both can be considered as updations only. Anyway, here now this particular compound has to give notification to this person, so that this person will go to doctor room. Okay, so these two threads are waiting now. Again, after completing this one, okay, this particular person came out, this compounder has to give the notification to this second thread, and so on. So here compulsory the communication, if we want to apply the communication between the threads, then we have to go for the concept of inter-thread communication. So generally in our sometimes in our programming we require the communication between the threads, then I have to use the concept of inter-thread communication. So here if you observe, as we have seen synchronization, there we are using three mechanisms. In the same way we can implement the concept of inter-thread communication by three ways I am going to consider here. So first one, so by using the concept of event class, so by using the event I can implement what? Inter-thread communication. In the same way we are having condition. So next, third one is by using the concept of queue. Okay, so I will explain by taking these three classes how to implement the concept of inter-thread communication. So I think it was clear for you what is meant by inter-thread communication. If we, once again I'll tell you briefly, if two threads want to communicate each other, then if one, so here let us consider this is one thread T1, this is T2. So if these two want to communicate each other, how they can communicate? Those are not humans to talk. So in between them something has to be there. So this is going to update this one, this is going to take from this one. So that means what, some medium should be there. Some medium should be there between these two. So whenever T1 is using this medium, T2 should not use. T2 has to wait. When T2 is using this one, T1 has to wait. Okay, that means only one has to use this medium. Let us take some X. So only T1 has to use X. At that time T2 has to be in wait state. When T2 is using this one, T1 should not wait. Okay, this is the concept of inter-thread communication. So to implement this one, I am having three mechanisms. One is event, another one is condition, another one is queue. So first let us see the concept of event. So basic mechanism is what? Event. So first I will demonstrate about event concept. So remaining is what? Condition and queue. So later I will discuss about these two. So first I want to talk about what? Event. Right. Now observe what is the use of this event means. So how it is going to used to implement the concept of inter-thread communication means. So first what we have to do? First we have to create an object of type event. For example, I am going to create E equal to event. E is what here? E is an object of event type. Okay. Anyway, first I will discuss about what is meant by an event. So here, how I can implement inter-thread communication by using event means one thread gives signal. Otherwise, direct I'll say okay. One thread signals an event. And other thread wait for it. Okay. So here I can say signal and wait. If you know the concepts of operating system, you can see this one in synchronization concept. Okay. So both synchronization and inter-thread communication, you will see this one, signal and wait. So one has to give signal. So other will do what? Other will start execution. Okay, one thread signals and other thread is going to wait. Signal and wait. A better example for this one is I will take a traffic signal. So here we are having three colors, green, red. I will take only two, green and red. So here this is let us consider this is a traffic thread, and here vehicles are there. This is one vehicle. I can consider vehicle as thread 2, signal as thread 1, sorry, this particular board as thread 1, and this vehicle as thread 2. So now how the communication is going to be done means when this person is going to wait here, because the signal is what here, this is what, red color. So he is going to wait. Whenever it is going to give green color, automatically this is going to be executed. That means the vehicle is going to be moved here. Okay. So here one thing we have to observe. One is going to give the signal and other is going to wait. One thread will be in, it will give signal, another is going to be wait. So why this is going to wait? It needs some updation. So that means what? Here red is there. Red is there. So when it is waiting for what? Green. That means some updation it is going to require here. When it is green, automatically it will go to, it will move on to the, it will go from that particular signal. Okay. Right. Now, how to implement? Let us see now. How to implement inter-thread communication by using this event. Right. Now see E equal to event. I am going to create an object of type event. So here we have to understand the object, what it is going to contain. Generally, it is going to contain one flag. One flag. Already you know flag is what? Flag can be 1 or 0. Okay, already we know. So here our event object is going to maintain one flag which can be set or. If you see the concept of analog digital electronics, it can be 0 or 1. It can be 0 or 1. But here what we are going to say means, here it can have set and it can be clear. Okay, it can be what? Set and it can be clear. So what is meant by set? Set means ready to do. Set means what? Ready to do, or we can consider it as a enable. Enable. Clear means what? Disable. That means we have to wait here. Okay, we have to do what? We have to wait. So whenever we are going to create an event object, so for that object internally one flag is going to be maintained. So that flag can be set or that flag can be cleared. Whenever flag is going to set, whenever flag is going to be set, then we are going to give chance to execute, or we can say it is an enable state. Or if flag is clear, that means what? We are not giving chance to execute, that thread has to wait. So this is the flag concept you have to understand here. Now let us see some methods that are used to implement the concept of inter-thread communication by using a event object. So observe carefully. First one is set. So already here we have discussed set. Next one is clear. Next one is clear. Next one is set. Is set. Okay. Next one is wait. Next one is what? Wait. So these are the 4 functions which are very important when we are implementing the concept of inter-thread communication by using event. So now let us see what is the use of this set. So already I have discussed about the flag here. So directly I will discuss about this set method. Okay. So internally what we are going to have? Internally flag will be set. Internally flag will set. That means waiting threads. That means waiting threads can continue. Can continue. Observe carefully. Whenever we are going to say set, that means whenever you are going to apply set on an event object, that means I am giving chance to the threads which are waiting to execute on that. Okay. Next, clear. Clear means what? Internally flag will be cleared. Okay, internally flag will be cleared, and that means what? Thread has to wait. Threads has to wait. Threads has to wait. Very important. These 2 points you have to understand clearly. Whenever we are going to apply set, then automatically the threads which are waiting can execute, start running. Next, whenever you are going to consider clear, whenever you are going to apply clear, then all the threads or a thread which is going to run has to wait. Okay. So now let us check. I want to check whether the object is set or not. That means which object? Event object. That means set can be applied in what? E dot set. Whenever I am applying set on E, that means other thread can use this E. Now if I am saying E dot clear, that means what? Other thread has to wait. Observe carefully. Other thread has to wait on this E. Now I want to check whether that particular event object is set or not. So I am going to use the method called as is set. So for what? to check whether event object is set or not, or we can say is whether event is set or not. So wait means what? Thread can wait until some event is set. So wait means what? Whenever we are going to apply wait until that means what? I am telling some thread to wait. Thread can wait up to what time it can wait? Until event is set. Until event object is set. Very important. Is set. So here for this method we can also apply some time. That means what? Until that time only it will wait. After that it will start execution. But here what happens? Wait of, if I am going to write empty brackets, that means without any parameters, that means the thread has to wait until some event object is set. Right, once again I'm repeating. So here the concept is, if we are going to use the concept of inter-thread communication, there I need two threads. For example, minimum of two threads for communication. We can communicate with any number of threads, but I'm taking the example of two threads only. So to communicate between two threads, in between something has to be there. Here I am taking that event object. So here if I want to perform any event, so if thread one want to perform something, so it can hold this one and it can execute. That means that T1 is using what? T1 is using what? E. And if T2 want to use this E, is it possible? It is not possible because T1 is using it. So when T2 can use it? After completing of T1. How T2 knows that T1 completed? So T1 will apply what? E dot set. So T2 is waiting on this E. T2 is waiting on this E. That means T2 want E for its execution. So that as E is used by T1, T2 has to wait. So whenever T1 is telling E dot set, the meaning of set is what? So waiting threads can continue. So whenever T1 is saying E dot set, so T2 can use this E for its execution. So whenever we are going to apply E dot clear, that means what? Thread has to wait. In the same way, to check whether the event object is set or not, for that we are going to we are going to use the concept of ESET method. So ESET method tells you what? It is going to tell you whether the event object is set or not. Okay, next, wait. So to make the thread to wait, we are going to apply a wait. So this wait can have one parameter, that is what we can add the some time here. Okay, so this is about, these are the methods that we are going to use in our event class on event object. Otherwise we can say on event object. Right, now I will go to a small example. Okay, and I will discuss once again who will apply wait and who will apply set now. So now see, who want updations? So who want updations, they will wait. For example I will take, this is government. Okay, government. This is public, or we can say student. For example, students I will tell. So students are waiting for what? Notification. Students are waiting for what? Some updations from the government. That means what? Job updations. So whenever government has given some updations, then student has to take it. Notification has to be released. Observe carefully. Here job notification has to be released. Without giving the notification, can the student can apply for that job? No, not possible. So government has to update the positions, job positions, and it has to give what? Job notification, so that now student can apply for this job. When student is going to apply for the job? Whenever government is going to give notification. If government is not going to give the notification about the job, student has to do what? Student has to wait for the notifications. Okay, so once notification is given, student will do what? Student is going to apply for this job. Okay, right. So who want updates, they will apply wait method. So as student wants, for example, let us take my mail. That is nothing but our Gmail. I will consider. Here I'm talking about a Gmail. So I am a student. I'm waiting for a mail. This is a mailbox or Gmail, for example. So I am waiting for job notifications. I am waiting for what? Job notifications. Otherwise, I am waiting for my interview offer letter. For example, I have attended to the interview and I am waiting for the offer letter. When the student is going to join in a company, whenever that company is going to give some notification by sending a offer letter. If this is the student is waiting for what? Student is in which state now? Student is waiting on what? On Gmail. That means he is waiting for what? To get some updations in this Gmail. So who is going to wait for an updations? So the thread which want some updations, then they have to wait. So now offer letter got. That means some notification we got. So that is nothing but offer letter. So now this particular company people has given me offer letter, so that now from now I can do what? I can come out of this waiting state. As some notification is received by me from the company, I can use that offer letter and I can join the company. Without getting this notification, can I join into a company? It is not possible. So those who are waiting, they require, sorry, those who need updations, they require wait. They will apply wait function. Next, those who are going to update, they will tell what? They will tell set. They have to give notification by using a set method. So those who are performing updations, they have to apply what? Set method. So after giving notification, they will intimate what? They will tell. That means what? He can use this job now. Okay. So now, just before going to an example, I will tell you the point once again. That is, those who needs, that means the threads which needs, sorry, threads which needs updations, they have to apply which method? They have to apply wait method. Next, the threads which are going to update, otherwise performing updations. After updating, what we have to do? We have to give the notification to waiting threads, so that after the threads which are performing updations, it has to use what? It has to use or it has to apply set method. It has to apply which method? Set method. The thread which requires updations, it is applying wait method. The thread which is going to update, which is going to perform updations, it has to apply what? Set method. Okay, now I will go to a small example. So generally for all these scenarios, I'm going to consider only one example, that is producer and consumer problem. I'm going to consider. So producer and consumer. So here generally first I will explain what is meant by producer and consumer problem. Later I will go to example. So without this interthread communication, I will explain here. Okay. So here what happens means, here this is some buffer or some queue, for example. So first what has to be done here? Producer has to produce, consumer has to consume. For example, producer is go on producing the data here into this buffer or a queue. So what happens here? There, if the consumer is not going to consume the data, then what happens? The data is going to be overflowed here, because if go on producing, what happens? This queue or buffer is going to be filled, and the data is going to be lost. That means what happens here? Overflow. This is one problem. Overflow is one problem. Next, let us consider next scenario here. That is nothing but the producer is not going to produce anything here, but consumer is consuming something here. Is there anything to consume? But without having any products inside a buffer or a queue, if consumer tries to consume the data which is not present, then we are going to get what? Underflow. We are going to get what? Underflow. And here, if go on producing by the producer without consuming by the consumer, then we are going to get what? Overflow. So to overcome these problems, I am going to implement the concept of inter-thread communication. Okay. So now how this problem is going to be resolved means, so producer will produce some items, minimum items, and he will intimate to the consumer before there is no communication. Now I'm going to tell to the consumer that I have produced. So consumer will do what? So whenever producer is going to produce, he will wait. He needs some updations here. So this consumer has to wait here. So how consumer knows that it has to consume? Producer will tell that. Producer will say to consumer that, okay, now you can consume. Whenever producer is saying to consumer that to consume, then producer will not produce anything. Consumer will consume whatever the items producer is produced. So now consumer task is completed. Again, producer has to do what? Producer has to produce. After producing, consumer will consume, and so on. This is the process that is going to be continued. So here consumer is going to wait for the updations, so that it will apply wait method, and producer is going to produce something. That means it is going to perform updations. So it is going to apply what? After producing the items, it has to apply set method. So for this scenario, I am going to take one example now. So the program I am going to write here by using event class, okay, or event object. So already we know that from where we are going to take all the related methods and classes of multi-threading, from threading module. Okay, from threading, I am going to import all. I am going to import all. Okay. Now, generally, to feel the concept of multi-threading or synchronization or inter-thread communication, better use some time gap between the executions. For that, I am going to use some time module also. It is not compulsory, but to observe clearly what is going to be happened, better use some sleep method of time module I can use. So I'm going to use time module here. Now I want to use, so I want to create an event object. So E is which object? Event object. So internally it is having what? Internally it is having one flag. So that flag can be set or the flag can be cleared. Okay. Now, so now I want to define what? Two things are there. Producer can produce. Producing is one task. Consumer can consume. Consume is one task. Two tasks I have to define now. Those are. So first one is what? Consume. First I will write a consumer task. So consumer task I am going to, otherwise you can take it as a consume also. There is no problem. So consumer will do what? Consumer is waiting for what? Is waiting for updations. So just I will print that. For indication, I am going to print consumer waiting. Consumer waiting for what? Consumer waiting for updations. Updations. So as it is waiting for updations, it has to be in which state? In waiting state. So it will apply e dot wait. Very important. So before going to see that concept once again, I will tell you clearly. So see, producer is there, consumer is there. So consumer is waiting for what? To consume the data from this queue, or I will take it as a buffer. From this buffer. So consumer is going to wait on this buffer. Consumer is waiting for what? It needs updations on this buffer. So consumer will what? It will consume the data after some updations are done here. That means producer and consumer using this buffer. Okay. So as producer is producing something, consumer has to wait. As producer is completing updations, it will apply what? Set method. So by seeing this set method, then this consumer can what it can do, it can retrieve the data that are present in the buffers. Okay, right. Now let us consider this consumer. So here we have to observe this one. Here we have to observe this buffer here. So this consumer is waiting on what? It is waiting on this buffer because updations are going to be done here, and this producer is go on producing data where in this buffer only. Okay, here buffer is important. It is used for the communication between the threads. So e dot wait, that means those who are executing this function, let us consider thread 2 is executing this function. So it has to wait on E. That means it has to wait on some event object. Why it has to wait on event object? Because some other thread is going to use that event object for updations. All right. Now, after this, whenever set is going to be applied by other thread, it will come and it will consume the data. So consumer consumes data. For example, I'm going to write consumes data. When it can consume data, when it got notification, when it got notification, or we can say what, or when the when sorry when set method is applied. Okay, set method is applied. So now see, this is about consumer. Consumer initially does what? It will wait for updations. So when it knows that some it has to access the buffer, when it receives some set when some other persons, some other threads who is using the event object, if on that event object, if somebody applied set, then automatically, as this is waiting for E, it can access now that particular E, and it can do what? It can consume the data from that E object. This is about consumer. Now I want to talk about producer. So producer I'm going to create, or produce we can write here. So here first, so as I will start both T1 and T2 same time. So before going to produce, if consumer thread is going to execute, for example, then it has to wait. So for that I will apply some sleep method here. Time.sleep of, I will take some 5 seconds, so that first consumer method will be executed and first statement will be printed, and it will wait for what? E. So now it is sleeping for some time. Producer is going to sleep sometime. Now I am doing what? Producer will do what? Producer is going to produce the items. Producer will produce items. Okay, as it will produce the items. So after completing the producing the items, what it has to do? So producer has to give the notification. Producer has to do what? Give the notification. So after producing producer has to set. Otherwise I'll say producer has to give notification. I will write notification. Okay, or how it is going to give the notification? By setting the event. How I can set the event? By writing e dot set. Now by seeing this one, what consumer can understand? This consumer is waiting on E. So whenever we are going to set, this consumer can access its method. Whatever we are having here, it is going to consume. Okay, right. Now I'm going to create 2 threads. Don't worry about this scenario. After this, I'm going to write a program for this one. Clearly, data is going to be produced and data is going to be consumed. I will show you. Okay, right. Now here, just I will take T1 equal to, I'm going to write T1 equal to thread. So here first thread I'm going to give target as producer. I'm going to give what? Producer. Next T2 thread, I'm going to create one more thread called as T2. Here what I'm going to take target equal to consumer. So thread 1 is going to execute what? Thread 1 is executing producer method, a producer function, and thread 2 is going to execute consumer function. Now I will start both the threads. T1 dot start and T2 dot start I'm going to write. So now what happens? Now automatically both the threads execute simultaneously, but on E at a time. E can be used by, event can be done by how many threads? Only one. So now for example, T1 dot start. T1 is what? Producer. Okay, it will go to producer and it will sleep. When it is T1 is sleeping, T2 starts automatically. T2 also will execute. Now what happens? Consumer starts waiting will be, consumer waiting for updations will be printed. Okay, it will printed. Next, after that, after printing this statement, it will go to which state? It will go to wait state. It will go to wait state for whom? E. To apply wait method on E. E is nothing but what? Event. That means your consumer thread, that is nothing but T2 is waiting on the event. That means if some event is going to be occurred, it can take some updations. So it is waiting on E. Now at that time, whatever producer is going to do, it is going to produce some values here. So after producing after producing data producer has to give notification by setting event, so that he has given the notification. So as consumer is waiting for E, so it has set it. So that means what? Now this consumer can consume. That means this statement will be executed. First statement is what? Consumer waiting for updations is going to be printed. After that, it will go to waiting state. At that time, it will come out of the sleep. I have given 5 seconds. So now producer will produce items will be printed, and after producing data, producer has to give notification by setting event is going to be printed, and we are going to write e dot set. That means what? Producer thread, that is nothing but T1 is going to set the event. Then automatically the thread which is waiting for that set, sorry, the thread which is waiting for that event is going to execute remaining task. So observe carefully. First statement is what here? First statement will be this one. Okay. Second statement will be this one. Third statement will be this one. And fourth statement will be this one. Now I will execute this one. Observe carefully. So just I will write Python space test.py. Okay. See here. First it is what? Consumer waiting for updations is printed. After that, sleeping. Producer is sleeping sometime. After that, has printed what? Producer will produce items is printed. After producing data, some statement is printed here. After that only consumer consumes data. Now see, consumer waiting for updations. Producer will produce the items. So after producing the producer is going to produce items. What then? What? Producer is going to apply set method. Then only consumer can consume the data. Okay. This is one small case I have shown you as this is a basic example. Now one real-time example. That means what I have discussed about traffic police concept. So same concept I will apply here. Okay, that is what I have to do means, so just I will use the concept of event, and I will take I will go use the concept of event, and I will talk about two threads. One is traffic police, another one is uh, normal person who is waiting near the signal, for example. Okay, right. Now observe carefully. Now this particular, let us consider driver. Okay, other than person, I can write driver, because the person who is driving a vehicle is called as a driver. Okay, so now first driver has to do what? In the signal, let us consider there is some signal, for example. Driver is waiting for the signal. Driver is waiting for what? Signal. If signal is given by the traffic police, then this driver can move. Okay, driver can move, and many vehicles can move here. If again, if this traffic police is given red signal, that is nothing but clear. I can say clear. If traffic police is going to set clear on this signal, then all this event, otherwise I can say this one as event. On this event, again this driver has to do what? It has to wait. Okay, next, whenever this traffic police is going to set this, that is setting is nothing but green signal. Clear is nothing but red signal. So now driver is waiting here. So traffic police has set the event. That means traffic police has given green signal. Then these drivers will move on. Vehicles will move on the road. Next, again, this traffic police has applied clear. Then what happens? This particular vehicles has to stop here. That means wait. Those has to be wait. When they can move once again, if traffic police is going to apply set, and so on. So this is the concept. Just I will apply while loop. It will, so that it will continue so on. So right now I will write a small program for this one. Now see, same concept. So here everything will be same up to here. Okay, just up to here I will take same thing. Here target will be, just I will change the names of these targets. So first method I am going to write is about traffic police. So I'm going to write what? Define traffic police. So what traffic police is going to do generally is going to give the signal. First, I will write while loop here. It will continue forever while it is true. So while true, first let us consider traffic policies. It will wait for some time. Time dot sleep, because to show you that initially the particular driver is going to wait, I'm going to sleep here. So sleep for 5 seconds I'm going to take. After this 5 seconds, so traffic policy is going to do what? Traffic policy is going to give the green signal. Print here what I will write, given green signal. I'm going to write given green signal. Okay, so traffic police has given green signal. That is nothing but what? E dot set. So now if one thread is going to apply set on E, other thread who is waiting for this E can execute this E, can use this E, right? So now after that again it will sleep for some time. Again it will sleep for 5 seconds I will take. Okay, now it is going to apply what? After 5 seconds it want to stop, that means red signal. Okay, so print off given red signal. Red signal means what? Those who are executing or those who are using E has to wait, giving red signal. So that how can I implement that one? By using E dot clear. When I apply clear method, what happens? Automatically thread will be in which state? Thread is going to wait state. That means it has to stop. It has to stop the execution on this E. This is the concept. So it will go on executing, because while of true, this means what? For every when it is true, it will execute all these statements. While of true means what? It is every time true only. This is about what we can say traffic police method. Now I want to talk about driver. So driver initially does what? Driver initially waits for the signal. So just I want to count the number of vehicles that are crossing. For example, let us take number equal to 0. Okay, right, to count the number of vehicles. Otherwise I can take here number of vehicles I will take, so that you will get a clarity. Okay, vehicles, okay, equal to 0 initially. Now drivers are waiting, or okay, drivers are waiting. For example, drivers are waiting. That means what? It has to apply for what? So drivers are waiting for what? For green signal. So for green signal. Now whenever they got green signal, they will run. That means they will move. So that means until green signal, what they have to wait? Until they have green signal, they have to wait. Yes. Once green signal is given by this one, that means whenever this thread is going to apply E dot set, then what these drivers are going to do? As signal is green, vehicles can move from here. Okay, as signal is green, vehicles can move. Okay, right, this is the concept. So as vehicles are going to move, when they can move? Until what time it can move? Until E is going to be set. Until E is setted, only this can be moved. For that I'm going to check. So for example, now E is setted. That means what? The vehicles can move. So until what time? I have to check for everything. So for example, E is set. There is a method called as what? E is set. E is set method is there. So I am going to check whether E is set. If it is set only, the vehicles will move. Now I will count the vehicles that are going to move here. That is equal to number of, what I have written, number of vehicles equal to, what I have to write? Every time it is going to increment. Number of vehicles plus 1 I am going to write. Right. After that, if you want to see, for example, if you want to, as I am counting here, I will write the vehicle number also. That means what? After green signal, which vehicle is moving? First to cross with the green signal is vehicle number 1. Second crossing the vehicle is vehicle 2, and so on. So here I am going to write what? Vehicle number I am going to consider vehicle count. Otherwise I will take vehicle count. So where the count is inside a number of vehicles. So number of vehicles, okay, count is printed. If the first vehicle is moving, it will say what? Vehicle count is 1. If second vehicle is moving, vehicle count is 2, and so on. So vehicle count 1 or vehicle 1 is moving. It is better to write vehicle 1 is moving. I will write is moving, or we can say what? Is crossing the signal. Is crossing the signal. Okay, right. So now completed. Now when it has to, for every vehicle, let us consider it is a huge traffic is there, so that vehicles are moving slowly. So it will take 2 seconds to cross a green signal. Every second, every vehicle can move cross the green signal after 2 seconds only. So here I will take more time so that you can see the output clearly. Here also I will take output time as more. So here I'll write what? 10. So time not sleep is what? 2 seconds. So now complete. This is while loop. This is while loop. This while loop will be executed what? This while loop will be executed until E is set. If E is not set, this while loop is not going to be executed. After that, I'm going to write what? Print off. After this, I'm going to write what? After red signal is going to be given. What I have to do? I have to, sorry, vehicles has to be stopped. Okay. So print traffic signal is red. Okay, is red. So what a vehicle has to do? Vehicle has to wait, or I can say drivers has to wait. Drivers has to wait. Right. This is the concept I'm going to execute now. So before going to execute, I will demonstrate once again. So observe carefully. So traffic police is there, driver is there. Okay, this is executed by one thread, this is executed by other thread. So initially what driver has to do, driver has to be in waiting state. Okay, so now, so that it is going to apply e dot wait. So the statement is for understanding purpose only. Okay, so e dot wait. So this driver thread is going to wait. For what it is waiting? For signal. So when this driver is waiting, producer is going to execute. First it will sleep for 10 seconds. After that, it is going to give the green signal, so that E dot set. Whenever E is going to be setted, those who are waiting for E, who is waiting for E? Driver is waiting for E. So it will execute as E is as traffic police has given set on E. Then what this particular driver has to do? It will execute this one. As signal is green, vehicles can move, and it will check. It will check for what? It will check whether the E is setted or not, because after 10 seconds, what happens? Once again, traffic police is given signal, red signal, for example. So until it is set, what happens? The vehicles are go on moving here. Okay. After that, if it is going to apply clear on E, then automatically all vehicles are going to be waited. I will execute this program, so you'll get a clear idea on this event now. Now see. So here I think I have mistakenly written some name produced is not defined in line 27. Okay. This is what line 27 here. Here I have, okay, sorry, I have not changed this one because targets has been changed here. That is, one is what? Traffic police. One is what? Traffic police. Target is traffic police. And second one is what? Second one is driver. Second one is driver. Okay. Right. So now I'm going to start the execution. Right. Now see, drivers are waiting for green signal because the traffic police is sleeping. Now see, traffic police is going to give green signal now. So 10 seconds after green signal, vehicle 1 is crossing, vehicle 2 is crossing, vehicle 3 is crossing, vehicle 4 is crossing, vehicle 5 is going to be crossing. So 10 seconds is over. Now what happens? Again policy has given what? Red signal. So given red signal. So traffic signal is red, drivers has to wait. And again 10 seconds it is going to wait. Given green signal again. So what? After giving green signal, what happens? So who is waiting for green signal? Drivers are waiting. So again given red signal, because why here it is going to give red signal once again? Here while loop I am going to execute for every time, but whenever it is going to fail, I am coming out of this one. So what happens here? It will in between whatever the statements that are present, those are not going to be printed here. Okay. So that is the concept of this one. If I write while loop here, while of true, okay, sorry, if I write while of true here, then it will be applicable. While of true, I am going to write here. Then what happens? The process will be continued for long time. So here I will write what? While of true, I am going to write. So here I have to give tab spaces. Right, for everything I have to give tab space. Right, here also this belongs to what is here. Now observe. Now it will be clear for you. I have to stop this one. So just I will press control break. Now see, it will be clear for you. Drivers are waiting for green signal. Okay, waiting. And now traffic police is ready to give the green signal now. So vehicle 1 is crossing the signal, vehicle 2 is crossing, vehicle 3 is crossing, 4 is crossing, 5 is crossing. Only why 5 vehicles are crossing? Because I have given 10 seconds time for green signal, and for every vehicle 2 seconds I have given time to cross, so that only 5 vehicles. Next, after next green signal, 6th vehicle, 7th vehicle, 8th, 9th, 10th, again red signal is going to be given by the traffic police. Again what happens? Again it has to wait for 10 seconds. After that, after 10 seconds, what happens? Again green signal, 11th vehicle, 12th vehicle. If I leave it as it is, if I leave the program in this way, it is go on, vehicles are go on moving when it is going to be green signal, and so on. Okay, so to stop this one, because there is no end for here, because I have written in while loop, it go on doing the process, so I have to stop manually. Okay, I have to interrupt this one. Right, this is about inter-thread communication. So today we have seen only one mechanism, that is what? Event. So once again I'm repeating the concept. So see, whenever I am applying e dot set, that means those who are going to wait, who is going to execute this one? T2 is going to execute this one. So T2 is executing this statement. That means T2 is waiting for what? E is used by what? E is using by this traffic police. So whenever it is going to be set, e dot set, then automatically the waiting thread, those who are waiting for E, those are going to be executed until what time? Until it is cleared once again. Now E is going to be cleared here. Then what happens? This has to be in wait state. So if it is going to be set, I am giving chance to execute for other threads. If I'm going to make clear, then what happens? Automatically other thread has to wait. Those who are using E, has to wait. When I'm applying E dot clear. If I'm not going to apply E dot clear, it go on, it can execute, go on, so on. Okay, let us consider I am not going to give red signal. For example, I am not going to give red signal. Now observe what happens. Now observe, if I'm not going to give red signal, there will be no red signal. Go on, so on. What happens here? Only green signal will be there. Observe carefully what happens now. So it is waiting. Vehicle 1 is crossing, 2 is crossing, 3 is crossing. Next one is what? 4 is crossing. Next 5. Normally what should be happened here? Green signal has to be there. But here I have printed some statement. So if I'm not going to print this statement, see, go on executing. It's not waiting. So I have not removed that given red signal concept, so that it is go on printing. So on, it will execute, so on. If I remove these statements given red signal, if I remove this one, if I remove this one, and if I remove this one, what happens? It's go on executing only, because I'm not giving any green signal here. Sorry, I'm not giving any red signal. Red signal means what? E dot clear. I am not telling anybody to stop execution. If I want to tell to stop the execution of any thread, I have to apply what? E dot clear. E dot set means what? I am giving chance to other threads which are waiting for this E to execute. If I apply E dot clear, that means what I am telling, what the thread is telling, those who are waiting for this thread has to wait now. E dot clear means what? The threads which are using E has to wait. So this is the concept of inter-thread communication by using the event class. So in next session, we will see the concept of two more mechanisms. Okay, thank you.